right, today we're looking at putting it all together for quadratic functions. So there's a lot of writing on the front of this packet. It's mostly just some reminders in case you want them. What we're looking at today is standard form ax squared plus bx plus c. So we haven't talked about the quadratic formula yet for this, but you know, we've talked about that c is the y-intercept, and that you do negative b over 2a to find the axis of symmetry and then plug it in to find the vertex. We've talked about factored form, that we're given the zeros, and we've talked about vertex form for all this. The rest of this is just some examples and steps on how to do it. So you can look at that, especially if you're missing something from mine. We're going to turn to converting some of these problems. We're going to convert them back and forth from standard form to vertex form to factored form, all that kind of stuff. So the first thing we're going to start with here is this is in standard form, and we want to find the vertex, the factored form of it, and we're going to talk about finding out these three things for all of them. Again, if you cannot be quiet while I'm teaching, you are invited to leave. We're going to talk about finding the x-intercepts. We're going to be talking about vertex. And if we can find both of those, we're in pretty good shape. We can also talk about finding the y-intercept. Axis of symmetry is just the x value of the vertex. So I'm in pretty good shape. Okay. So again, I like the box method for these. I put x squared here and 96, negative 96 right here. Okay, so I know this is going to have to be x and x. But what two numbers multiply to give me 96, where when I put them together, I could get negative 4?
12 and 8.
Yes. So I'm going to get negative 12 and positive 8. So 8x, negative 12x. Okay, those add together to give us negative 4. So I know I've got x minus 12 and x plus 8, and that is in factored form. Okay, so what are my x-intercepts then if I've got that? Or my zeros? What's the opposite of negative 12? 12 and negative 8. Okay, now my vertex, remember to find the axis of symmetry, I'm going to go negative 12 plus 8. Oops, excuse me. Positive 12 plus negative 8. And I'm going to get 4. 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. So that is my x value of my vertex. And I'm going to plug that back in. You can do it into vertex form, the standard form, or the factored form. So you're going to go 2 minus 12. I'm going to do it in factored form this time. Times 2 plus 8. What's 2 minus 12? Negative 10, right? And 2 plus 8 is 10. Negative 10 times a positive 10 is a negative 100. Yes?
So, why is it like positive 12 and then negative?
Because it's the opposite of these. Because we go x minus 12 equals 0. So we get x equals 12, you know, because we'd have to add it to both sides.
Okay.
So it's telling me where it is. Okay. So let's go ahead and do B. All right. So I don't know about you guys, but if it has a number greater than 1 in front of x squared, I hate them. So I'm going to do them this way. I'm going to zoom this in. Hopefully this doesn't stop recording and be crazy on me. Okay. So I don't like them, so I'm going to do it the grouping way. And I kind of showed you how to do one of those again on your homework. But what you do is you take the number in front and the number at the very end and you multiply them together. Then I want to think of two numbers that when I multiply them gives me negative 12, and when I add them gives me negative 4. So what two numbers multiply to give me 12?
6 and 2.
6 and 2, and 6 would have to be negative. So I get 4x squared, and I'm going to put the 2 next to it because because you can factor out a 2 out of those. And I'm going to put negative 6x minus 3, and I put those together because I know they have 3 as something in common. Now I'm going to take out a 2x, and I'm left with 2x plus 1. And now I'm going to take out a negative 3, and I'm left with 2x plus 1. So that's what you want. You want these in the parentheses to come out as the same. So now I'm going to write 2x minus 3 times 2x plus 1, and I'm finished. Those are the two things that multiply together to give me that in standard form. And that equals, we can say equals y or equals f of x. They're the same thing. Okay, from here I'm going to figure out what my x-intercepts are. Okay, now these aren't very easy to do. I actually have to do the work for them. I have to say 2x minus 3 equals 0, and then solve. I get 2x equals 3 because I added 3 to both sides. Then I'm going to divide by 2, and I get x equals 3 over 2. So that's one of my x-intercepts is 3 over 2. And my other one, 2x plus 1 equals 0. I get 2x equals negative 1. So I get x equals negative 1/2. Okay. Now, again, to find, so that's what I wanted to find, my x-intercepts, and now I'm going to find my vertex. If you're lost, please let me know. Otherwise, there should be no talking in my classroom. Yep. So I'm going to go 3/2 plus negative 1/2. And I'm going to divide that answer by 2. So my vertex is going to be 1/2. And then I'm simply going to plug 1/2 into my equation. I might do it, put it in the standard form equation or the factored form, and I get negative 4. So I added those two together. You want me to write it out? I went 3/2 plus negative 1/2 divided by 2 gives me 1/2. Right here, my x-intercepts. Stop talking.
Okay, so both come
Right after the what?
and we got the two.
We got these two right here. So then I set each one equal to 0 and solved for x. Those, Christian, are my x-intercepts. I added those two things together, divided by 2, and I got 1/2. Then in this case, I plugged it into standard form. You could have plugged it into factored form as well. 4 times 1/2 squared minus 4 times 1/2 minus 3. That gives me negative 4. So my vertex then, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit because it's not showing up completely. So my vertex is 1/2 negative 4. All right. For C, it is in factored form, and I want to make it in vertex form. I think these are more fun to do because I'm just putting the things on the outside of the box. So I'm going to ignore that 3 in front first. And I'm going to have x minus 4 and x plus 2. Does it matter which one you put on the side or which one you put on the top? No. X times x is x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. X times 2 is 2x. And 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. So I end up with, I'm going to put the 3 in front. I end up with x squared minus 2x minus 8. And then I'm simply going to distribute all of these. So I get 3x squared minus 6x minus 24. That equals f of x. Okay? Right there, that is in standard form now. Okay, my x-intercepts are what? I'm going to go back to find these. I'm going to go back to my factored form. What are my x-intercepts, guys? You're looking. My x, it's not -4, but +4. And -2. Okay, now again, to find your vertex, you can do a couple of different things. You can add these together and divide by 2. You can look at here and go -b divided by 2a. 4 plus -2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then we would just plug 1 into this. So you're literally plugging 1 in for x. And you should get -27. Okay, so I'm going to have you guys do certain ones of these for homework. I'm going to have you do D as homework. You're going to do it in standard form, so you're going to FOIL this out, times it by 2, add 6 to it. So D is your homework. This is stapled weird. So we're going to skip the next page. And you're also going to no, we're not going to skip the next page. We're going to do the back of this. You're going to do I and J. So you're just going to do those 3. Okay. So we are going to go ahead and we are going to talk about graphing problem. I'm going to do number 3, and you guys are going to do number 2. So we're going to graph this without a calculator. Okay? So if you look on the packet, you'll move past the graphing. There gives a great description in here about how to graph, like the steps to take, how to make your graph, what it should look like, what you should do. But I'm going to skip over that, and I'm going to go over number 3 with you guys. And then you'll do 2 for homework. So we are going to put this in factored form because I think it's the easiest way to graph. You ready for it? So we're going to find our zeros, or our x-intercepts, or our roots, our vertex, and in this case we're going to find our y-intercept to be able to graph it. So those are the 3 things I'm finding. I'm finding x-intercepts, y-intercept, and your vertex. Okay, those 3 things. First, we are going to put this in factored form. And we've got a negative in front. I don't like that negative. So do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take it out. So I'm going to factor out a -1. I'm going to divide literally everything by -1. So I'm going to be left with x squared minus 6x plus 8. Questions about what I did there? I literally divided everything by -1, so I just changed the signs for everything and put the sign on the outside of the parentheses. Okay, now we're going to make our box. Here's x squared, here's 8. What 2 numbers multiply to give me 8, but add together to give me -6? Shh. What 2 numbers multiply to give me 8, but add together to give me -6? 4 and 2? What do 4 and 2 both have to be to give me -6? at a positive 8. They both have to be negative. Negative 4x and negative 2x, when I add those together, I get that negative 6. Okay, so I'm going to put the negative on the outside, negative 1 on the outside. And then I have 2 parentheses, x minus 4 and x minus 2. Okay, so we're going to stop right there, and we're going to talk about what our x-intercepts are. And I'm going to put that in a nice box so I can find them again. What is it? 4 and 2. Shh. Okay, my axis of symmetry. How do I find the axis of symmetry? I'm going to add them together and divide by 2. 4 plus 2 divided by 2. That gives me what?
No, it's 3.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, that's the answer. Okay, how do I find, I've got the axis of symmetry, but what I really want is my vertex.
so we're going to plug in 3 minus 4.
Yeah, so I go negative 1 times 3 minus 4 times 3 minus 2, right? Because I've got to put this down here exactly. I could have plugged it into my original problem too. That would have been fine. Shh.
So it's negative 1 times 9
Yeah, a negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 1 is 1. So I get 3 comma 1 for my vertex. Okay, now I'm asking for the y-intercept for this because it's really easy to tell because it's in standard form at the beginning. What's the y-intercept? Yep. Yep. Okay, now we're going to use this information to graph. Okay? So I'm first going to find all of these things. Remember, these are 4 comma 0 and 2 comma 0. It's like a point. And this is 0, negative 8. Sometimes I like to put those zeros in there just so I know that that means a point. So I'm going to plot 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Okay? So I go to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I draw a point. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can kind of see this. I'm going to go to 2, 0. There's my other point. I'm going to 3, 1. And I'm going to go 0, negative 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, how would I make a 5th point on here? I've got 4. I'd like one more to kind of complete my U. Yes. Right here, this is my axis of symmetry. So if I look, this point down here at the bottom is 1, 2, 3 away. So I can go 1, 2, 3 on the other side. And I've got my lovely U. Questions? Okay, so you guys are going to graph number 2. And you are going to do problems D, I, and J. D, I, and J. Okay, you can do the rest of them. Okay, for what, in any way you can figure out how. And I will give you extra credit for that. So, if you do all of them in this packet, you'll get extra credit. But you have to do D, I, J, and graph number 2 to get full credit. Okay? No, that is actually, this is tomorrow's. It shouldn't have come out. This is what we're going to do tomorrow. So this should be under. Okay? Anybody have any questions about what they should be doing for the rest of the hour? Okay. Go ahead and get started, guys. And Gavin or Elijah, will you get the lights, please?